In this video, we're going to take a look at soldering some resistors onto the board and some techniques that will help you. First of all, you can solder many parts onto the board at the same time if you're careful. For example, let's put in a few of the series starting with R31, which are 1.2K resistors. So we can insert these in from the top, just in sequence, and you'll notice that R31 and R32 and R33 are every other resistor in this section of the board. So from the bottom side, I'm actually pulling the lead down and back a little bit, and that's going to keep that part from falling out. So let's just pick on 3 of these. So there's R31, R32, and R33. So we've got those kind of snugged into the board, and from the back I've gently pulled the leads. Now I'm going to flip the board over and put my finger on those parts. They're really not going to fall out. But on the back side of the board, we're going to clinch that lead just a little bit. So we'll clamp it down in the vise, and with your finger on the resistor on the top, just give a very slight tug on the lead of each part. And just kind of pull it out away from the body, just a little bit like that. And you'll notice that it makes kind of a bend right there where it's meeting the foil of the circuit board. That's a good thing, because that will keep that lead, that part, from falling out. So that's called clinching the lead. So with the needle nose, we've got a little clinch on each one of the leads. That's really nice, because now we don't need those leads anymore. We're just going to chop those leads off and say goodbye to them. And to keep the lead from flying, grab it with your needle nose. And you notice the part's not falling out. It's pretty much held in place by that clinch. What you can't see me doing is depositing the leads down in the trash can. When you clinch these over, make sure that the lead does not get onto an adjacent pad. So there we got 3 parts pretty much clinched down. So now you got the easy part, because now that you don't have a bunch of leads in your way, you can easily solder those pieces down to the board. You can't see off screen, but I'm cleaning the tip of my soldering iron. I've got the soldering iron going, and these will solder in pretty fast. You can see I'm touching the lead and the land with the solder. And those big lands will take a little bit more time to heat up. Just press that iron down into it, and you'll see the solder flow around the part and the land. This is a little closer shot just to show you what the soldering looks like again on the back of the board. One thing you might want to be careful about is don't put too many components in at one time. 4 or 5 is a good number. The reason for this is it's easy to miss solder joints. And since you're cutting the leads off, these joints can end up being hidden. So as you can see, we've previously clinched and clipped the leads off. And again, here on the one side where the pads are pretty good sized, they will soak up quite a bit of heat. So you might need to be on there a second or 2 longer than you do on the pads that are smaller. Don't take too much time on these. You can easily overheat pads and board. So this technique can be used throughout the board. Remembering, when you're soldering and working with items that are semiconductors, do wear an anti-static wrist strap. Connect that to the green earth ground on one of the piece of test equipment in lab. Notice in doing this, we don't have anything funny going on. For example, we don't have leads sticking out. We didn't have to worry about cutting out the leads after we soldered, which actually can be stressful to the board because you end up pulling on the board. So this is the correct technique for soldering through-hole components on the board. When we come up and look at the top of the board after doing this, you may see a little bit of solder coming up through the board. If you see a whole lot, you're probably using too much solder. You should just see a trace of solder, coming up beside each lead.